On March 11th on Tuesday, and go ahead and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, staff, would you like to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Ferguson.
Here.
Commissioner Nesbitt.
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Present.
Commissioner Torres.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Ashbaugh.
Present.
And Chairman Wiley.
Here. All right, has everyone had a chance to look at the consent agenda and the minutes for our last meeting?
Chair, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
All right, I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All right, I will call for the vote.
Commissioner Ferguson.
Yes.
Commissioner Nesbitt.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh.
Yes.
Chairman Wiley.
Yes. And the motion passes 7-0. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome on behalf of the City of Independence to this Planning Commission hearing. For those of you who wish to speak tonight, we'd just like to take care of this all at once. So if you think you might speak either for or against, would you go ahead and stand? All right, and just repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth to this commission? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, for those of you who wish to speak or are speakers tonight, just address any comments or questions to me, the chair, and I will have you continue. And with that, staff, we will start with our first hearing.
Okay, this is case 25-109. Applicant is Day Driving School, LLC. Owner, Shara Pipes. Requested action to rezone from C2 General Commercial to I1 Industrial. So the vicinity map here indicates the location of this property where the star is. Okay, sorry. There, it's on now. Okay. This is our notification map for the indicated property. So all the properties within 185 feet of that in the light blue are the areas of notification. So as far as the zoning area and history, so as far as the cardinal directions to the north, you have areas zoned I-1 and I-2, which includes an undeveloped tract with a Quonset hut. To the south, zone C2 is an undeveloped wood lot. To the west is, of course, State Route M291, or not the west, to the east is State Route M291, and to the west is I-1, existing salvage yard. History. The Planning Commission on October 24, 2023 recommended approval of an earlier iteration of this case, case 23, 123. But after being forwarded to the City Council on December 4th of that year, second reading at the second reading, the council members rejected the rezoning request by a vote of 2 to 4. Members cited numerous reasons for their denial: need for more buffering, a loss of trees, the visual incompatibility with this prominent corridor of the city, the noise, and a change to a zoning category that would be opening up the site to possibly other industrial uses in the future. So here are some of the characteristics of this property. Bird's eye, first of all, this is a bird's eye view looking down northwest. So down in the southeast corner of or the lower right corner of the photograph is 291 that you see there. Some of the issues with this property: the nearest sanitary sewer infrastructure is 300 to 500 feet away and relatively shallow in relation to this site. The closest water supply is 500 feet away. Access to the site off 291 would be ride in and ride out only. Power service, while possible, will have some challenges accessing this site. And the site is currently surrounded to the north, south, and west with existing industrial zoned uses. The second lot adjacent to the south, however, is zoned R6. However, that lot is a legal non-conforming industrial use. Here's a more straight bird's eye view down of this same location. Analysis of this site: well, a final site plan will need to be submitted to planning and zoning, and then permits and engineering plans would have to be provided. Of course, access to M291 will have to be cleared by MoDOT as well as the city's traffic engineer. The driving school course will be a paved surface with painted cones. The rest of the property will be green space and a detention basin, and we'll see that momentarily on the drawing. Vehicles cannot be stored on this lot outside of a structure. Street trees and parking lot perimeter plantings will have to be provided per code. Of course, without a principal structure, fencing to enclose the property is not permitted. And stormwater detention calculations for the proposed impervious driving surface will be necessary. So here's the site plan, and you'll notice in the southeast corners where that water detention basin is, and then the paved surface is what's coming off of that existing curb cut that's on M291, and will provide access to a large paved surface there in the lower center part of that property. And so this is a view of the property looking from that curb cut that already exists right there on M291. And then this is looking up the roadway to the north from that same location. And then this is looking southward toward Independence Avenue and the Truman Road interchange onto the south. So staff's recommending approval of this rezoning, and I'm ready to take any questions you may have.
All right, commissioners, any questions for staff?
I have a question. I don't notice any hours of operation for the school. Is that something that should be included?
I guess I'm not understanding your question for the school.
Hours?
Oh,
of
for the
operation?
training, okay, you're talking about the, I mean, we wouldn't include that with the zoning, because we can't really condition the zoning. So,
Is there a place where that would be a pertinent fact?
I don't know how we could condition that into the site plan or the
Well,
permitting
let me ask you
process
this.
necessarily.
Why do we do that with some and not with others? Because that's kind of a common thing.
Well, it's because this isn't a PUD. This is
Okay.
a straight zoning. And unfortunately, we don't have that flexibility with the straight zoning that we do
Okay,
with the
and
PUD.
because it's industrial, they can operate at 2 o'clock in the morning if they wanted to.
I mean, it's not like a special use permit, so we don't have any way to like put conditions on this zoning, so.
Well, I wasn't really asking you to put a condition on it. I was just asking you why there wasn't a condition. But that's, I don't really like that answer, but last time there was council was, one of the concerns they
Was noise.
said was noise. And during the day, and I don't think it's a big deal, but at night, I can see where it might be a big deal. So, and I don't know if they're going to do that. Maybe we'll ask them when they come up. Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for staff? All right, we'd like to ask the applicant to come up. Please state your name and your local address.
Aaron Day, 9512 South Main Entrance Drive, Lake Ottawa.
Okay? And what would you like us to know about this application?
For you saying about the noise and the time, our hours where we're at now, we're open from roughly 8 till 5, 6 every day. And when I spoke with the lady that said she had a problem with this from the, because I didn't go to the last meeting last year. I said I didn't need to. I should have gone. But our trucks are not loud. They're very quiet. They're quieter than my pickup truck. So it's not like the old diesel trucks where you have the stacks coming out and all that. They're single axle day cabs and not very much noise at all.
But your
Good question.
hours of operation would be 8 to 6?
Yeah, yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't anticipate running any operations after 6 p.m.?
No. Mm-mm. Especially not at 2.
This is a curious case for us because it was rejected and then you brought new information. So would you mind some of the reasons that the council had denied it
When
and
I
just
sp-
talk about what you've done differently?
When I spoke with her on the telephone, I went over exactly what we were going to be doing, and I explained to her she was really worried about there being the residential, but she didn't realize that the residential was a unconforming lot that was landlocked with no utilities and was being used as a dump site right now for the trucking company that's right next door. And, you know, he uses that also for other things. And that was her main deal, was that. And then the noise, and I told her, no, we don't have, there's more noise going down 291 than our trucks are going to cause up there in the deal. And then I asked her, should I go back in front? Because it cost me a lot of money to do this the first time. And she said, well, you already have everything, just go ahead and take it back up. And I said, so you're telling me to do it again? She says, yes, put it back in front of the board.
And does your new site plan, does it address the loss of trees or the need for more buffering?
Well, you can tell almost the whole lot of our trees. Our lot that we're putting in is not that large. We don't need a whole lot of room. There'll be quite a bit of buffer to the north and in the rear. If you had a top sight of it, you can kind of see. Can I approach with this? This is mostly the area where we have a lot where there's no trees back here. I'm sorry, right here. And he's kind of already kind of cleared this out here and kind of gone over. So our lot is not going to be a lot of these that's where there's picked out the spot. The driveway kind of goes up there right now. It's kind of cleared out. Because some of those trees are huge. Wouldn't be cost effective for me.
Anything else we should know? And I would repeat that because it wasn't on the mic. So
Excuse me?
I would just repeat what you told us because it was not on the microphone.
Okay, so where I'm putting the lot, I put it where there are no trees standing now. So I would not have to, the trees are pretty large. And I have plenty of room that's going to be buffering me from the rear and the north side. And to my, to the south, there's 2 trucking companies already right there. And they store all their trucks outside and other things. So I don't think it's going to be really causing any problems for any of the neighborhoods around.
Okay. From a perspective of the council, one of their concerns was a loss of trees. So are you saying there will no longer be a loss of trees?
No, there has to be some trees taken down, but if you see the whole lots of trees, I'm not going to, if you want to suggest a buffer in the rear, that's fine. And on the north side, there really aren't any trees. On the south side there, that's just real small brush.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right.
Do you have the intent to have a fuel depot on the property for your vehicles?
I couldn't hear you, what?
You going to have a tank of fuel for your vehicles?
No. We get all ours down on the corner at 66. Every time I've set that up at other places, not for this business, but for my excavating businesses, that always gets stolen. People break into it, so it's not worth it.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Staff, based on his answer about buffering, can you address if we need to?
Well, let me get into this. So this is, of course, a zoning case, and you're voting on straight zoning. And so there isn't a plan being approved
Okay.
with this.
Thank you.
Okay, we will have a site plan process that he will have to apply for that will be also in conjunction with the permitting process, and we will do our standard reviews as far as required landscaping per code and buffering from certain lesser zoning districts, and a tree conservation plan could be very much a part of that, and we will address all of those required planting issues, buffering issues.
No, that's good
Fencing issues,
clarification.
everything else within that site plan process.
So we're going straight forward to move it to an I industrial zoning, and that's all we're deciding tonight.
That's all you're deciding.
Can you remind me this particular piece of property, because there's no water, access, it's unlikely that many other types of businesses could even be considered there.
Right, and that's why this is the business that has picked this location, and why we're supporting the approval of the zoning, because even with the industrial zoning, there's very few industrial things that can go on there other than these these activities that don't take a lot of utilities, that are not present or cannot easily be brought to the property. Not to mention questions about building major structures in this area where there's been mining in the area as well. So,
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak for this case? Anybody who would like to speak in favor of this case? Okay, seeing none. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak against this case? All right, again, anyone who would like to speak against? All right, seeing none. Any final things before I close the hearing? Commissioners? Okay. Correct. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move for approval on case 25-100-09.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to add a condition that there be a tree conservation plan included.
unfortunately, we can't condition the zoning. So,
I had a discussion with somebody who said that I should suggest that.
oh, okay,
So can we add that?
okay, we'll add that.
Thank you very much. And I would also like to second it.
Okay.
All right, the motion has been first and seconded. Any additional comments?
Madam Chair, I'll accept the amendment.
Okay. So you have a motion with the amendment of a condition for
second it with the
a
amendment.
tree conservation. All right. And I believe we are ready for a vote.
Okay. Commissioner, my mind is sticking. Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashball,
Yes.
and Chairman Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0 for rezoning case number, I can't read it now. Thank you, 25-100-09. All right, we are moving on to our next order of business, which is case 25-400-01 for a short-term rental at 910 West Waldo Avenue. Staff, are you ready for a report?
Absolutely. So this is an application for short-term rental at 910 West Waldo Avenue. The applicant, Brian Barton, with Avenue One LLC. Here's the notification area map. The subject property is on the northeast corner of River Boulevard and Waldo Avenue. A zoning map indicates the subject site is zoned R6, single-family residential, and is surrounded by the same zoning classification, R6, single-family residential. As stated before, the subject site is located at the northeast corner of River Boulevard and Waldo Avenue. Lot 10 of the College Lawn subdivision is about 9,100 square feet in size. Real estate records indicate that the structure is around 3,000 square feet. The structure is 3 stories, including a finished basement. The site features a large 2-car wide driveway providing access off River Boulevard. The surrounding neighborhood is zoned R6 and consists of houses of similar age and design. The closest short-term rental is located 2 blocks south on the south side of White Oak Avenue. A bed and breakfast is located across the street from the subject site in the Truman Boyhood Home. A floor plan of the basement. Notably, the basement will be inaccessible to guests of the short-term rental. A floor plan of the first floor showing the addition on the south side, the front of the structure. Again, notably here, the north side of the house, the rear of the first floor is inaccessible to guests, so that's indicated on the floor plan you can see here up on the slide and in your packets. A floor plan of the second floor shows an additional 3 bedrooms. A picture of the front facade. And staff recommends approval of this application for a short-term rental. A little bit of a typo there.
All right, is that the end of your report?
Yep.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Nesbitt.
you said there's only 3 bedrooms upstairs, but I'm seeing 4 on my piece of paper, so what's the deal?
I'm going to go back to the floor plan here. So the second floor has 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. And then the first floor, there's a bedroom on that south building line.
That was a bathroom. Okay, never mind, I
so
see it now, it says bathroom, okay. I
Yep.
thought it said bedroom.
No, absolutely.
So, I mean, are we allowing 4
I did
bedrooms,
the
and are
same
we
thing when I
saying?
first looked at it.
Yes, it's allowing 4.
Okay. How many people can they have stay there?
Maximum occupancy of 8.
Okay.
All right, any additional questions for staff? All right, we'd like to call the applicant up. State your name, and then if you're both going to speak, make sure that you each speak directly into the microphone. Share your name and your address, please.
My name is Brian Barton. This is James Wendleton. We are together. We own the property at 910 West Waldo Avenue.
Could you give us your address, please?
114 Park Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri.
All right, thank you.
Yep. We're both obviously together. We own the property at 910 West Waldo, and we want to start by thanking you for your time and consideration this evening. We're not new to short-term rental or the responsibilities that come with them. Later this year, we'll be celebrating our first anniversary as short-term rental host in Kansas City, Missouri. Over the past year, we've learned a lot. Everything from best practices to things to avoid. And we've enjoyed every experience since. One of the most rewarding parts that has been hearing from our guests about how much they've truly enjoyed time in our home. And this comes from kind messages and even photos, which I thought that was really neat, showing photos of how they've enjoyed not only our home, but the experiences in Kansas City. We're also very proud to share that we've maintained a perfect 5.0 star rating on Airbnb, something that we take great pride in on providing a safe, clean, and high-quality experience for our guests. Because of this experience that we've had with our short-term rental, with your approval, we've decided to turn this home into a short-term rental rather than a long-term rental. We feel this allows us to better maintain its charm, character, and condition, while also contributing to the local hospitality offerings in the area. Over the past few years, we've worked to update and refresh our home, making thoughtful improvements both inside and outside, from the kitchen, the floors, the bathrooms, the restrooms, and the exterior, while preserving the historic character and presence in the community. Wintertime doesn't make anything look that great. It looks much better when it's in spring and summer. The home is located just blocks from the Truman home, the historic downtown square, religious landmarks, and the Truman Library, as well as many other points of interest within Independence. With the Waldo Avenue home, we aim to offer high-quality, modern, yet historically respectful retreat that appeals to a wide range of travelers, whether they're visiting for family, history, business, or just leisure. Ultimately, our goal is to provide a safe, enjoyable, and welcoming space for all types of travelers, and we look forward to being a part of this community in a way that's responsible and respectful to our neighbors. And that's what we have, and we're open for any questions.
Chair.
Commissioner Nesbitt, go ahead.
Okay, now, who's going to be responsible when there's problems? How far away are you? I mean, I didn't hear staff say anything about that.
Yeah, I'm less than 20 minutes away.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yep.
You don't mind any of the recommendations got to be done, the noise monitors or anything like that? You're good with that?
Correct. We're already with, I never know how to say it, but
Minute.
Minute.
Thank you.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
I have a question.
All right, Commissioner Ferguson.
Cars can be parked behind the house and in front of the garage, the black garage.
Yeah, absolutely. So two can sit right in front of the
Okay.
garage, and then there's an additional space that'll allow
Right.
for a third,
Okay.
all with all ADA needs and whatnot. And then also we have the one up front,
Okay.
or off-street, or on-street parking.
So room for 4
Correct.
autos.
Yes. Mhm.
All right. Any additional questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, is there anyone present who would like to speak for this case? Anyone who'd like to speak for? All right, seeing none. Anyone who would like to speak against this case? Anyone to speak against? All right, seeing none. All right. Any final questions for staff? All right, I will close the hearing. All right, I will entertain a motion.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner?
I make a motion that we approve case 25-400-01, short-term rental, 910 West Waldo.
All right, I have a first.
I
Second.
second.
All right, I think Michael beat you by a hair. So we have first and a second. All right, any need for final discussion? All right, I will call for the vote.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres, Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0 for case number 25-400-01, short-term rental at 910 West Waldo Avenue. Thank you very much and welcome to Independence.
Thank you.
All right, our final hearing for the night is case number 25-400-02, short-term rental, 2118 North McBride Avenue. Staff, do you have a report?
Absolutely. So again, this is another short-term rental application from Lewis Galloway. He's a property owner of a duplex and an owner-occupant of one side of that duplex. So the application is for the other side of the duplex. The subject site is located on the boundary of Independence and Sugar Creek, the northern boundary off of River Boulevard again. So you turn off of River Boulevard onto Silver Lane, and it's kind of tucked back in there. Notification area map shows the subject site in a subdivision of 4 duplexes surrounding a roundabout on McBride Avenue. Zoning map shows that boundary between Independence and Sugar Creek, indicated by that purple line. The western portion of that map is not zoned because that's Sugar Creek. That subdivision of 4 duplexes is 2-family residential surrounded by largely single family. To the south is Mill Creek Park baseball fields. To the west is a cemetery. I believe that's the Mound Grove Cemetery, if I'm not mistaken. So the property is located on the border of Independence and Sugar Creek, abuts the northern border of Mill Creek Park baseball fields. It's a duplex subdivision comprised of 4 lots. The subject site is Lot 4 of the Silver Lane Lawn Annex subdivision. The subject site is more or less 15,000 square feet in size. Each side of the duplex has about 885 square feet of livable area. 2 bedrooms on the main level, a full finished basement. The floor plan does indicate a bedroom. However, the bedroom does not meet building code requirements to be classified as such, so the operator of the short-term rental cannot advertise as such. That's been discussed with the applicant beforehand, and the subject site is supplied with a 2-car wide driveway, and guests are allowed to utilize one half of the driveway, so they've met the parking requirements for off-street parking. The closest short-term rental is located south on Cottage Avenue. That's also a duplex short-term rental unit, interestingly enough. Here's a sketch of the basement floor plan, initially showing a bedroom there. However, again, bedroom will not be advertised on booking platforms, cannot be used as such. A floor plan of the main level shows 2 bedrooms. In between, there's a bathroom, and in the main area, you've got your living room and kitchen. The house is a split level, so you walk in, you can go upstairs or downstairs. And here is a picture of the front facade taken today. And staff recommends approval of this application for short-term rental. There's a bit of a typo on the slideshow here. The conditions for approval are outlined in the staff report, so that would be compliance with noise monitoring device, good neighbor guidelines, business licensing, transient guest tax, and so forth. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
All right, commissioners, any questions for staff?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Nesbitt.
Gabe, you have a note said on the last one or this one, I guess fire inspection's done on both of them?
I don't believe so. Is that not a condition of approval on the staff report?
I don't see anything that says fire.
Number 7 of the
Oh,
staff
it's on the
report.
next page.
Yep.
Next page, okay, so the other one's the same way, I just didn't pay attention.
Absolutely.
Okay, you guys usually recommend that, say it's past fire inspection or something.
Yeah, the fire inspection the fire prevention division has been requiring a business license application because of the software that the fire prevention division uses. I believe it's called Streamline. I can't remember the exact software that they use. So we've kind of conditioned that into the approval of the short-term rental now. So after Planning Commission makes the determination before the business license can be issued, the short-term rental will have to comply with the fire prevention or fire code.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Gabe, I've forgotten how long somebody can stay at a short-term rental.
So short-term rental is technically less than 30 days. 30 days and beyond,
And can they get an extension? For
no.
any reason?
The reason for that is when an occupant stays beyond 30 days, they establish,
Residents?
residency,
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any additional questions? All right, I'm going to call the applicant up. Please state your name and
Louis
your
Galloway.
address.
Louis Galloway, good evening. My address is 2118 North McBride. The rental property is 2120
Okay.
North McBride.
And what would you like us to know about your
I'd like you
short-term
to
rental?
know that we are first time short-term rental It has been a process, to say the least.
Okay.
And we've had a huge learning curve. I want to thank Gabe for taking me by the hand and helping me a great deal. He's instructed me on a myriad of things that are go and no go, and I appreciate that. I think our property is located in a fantastic area. Originally, when we purchased it, it was for long-term use, long-term rental use. After getting the history of it, we realized that the previous owner had used it as a short-term rental. Once upon doing the research, we saw the potential that the short-term rental had over the long term. And also, property maintenance is a big thing for me. And with short-term rental, we can maintain that. Whereas with long-term rental, you basically own the house as long as you pay your rent. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't burn the place down. And I want to be able to go in there weekly or bi-weekly, as often as it turns over, and inspect my property and make sure it's still in good condition. This is our first time, but it won't be our last. We use VA funding, as I am a retiree, and so we will be purchasing another, whether it's a duplex or a single family, and depending on the location, we'll be doing the same thing. If the location doesn't require it or fit the bill, then we'll go month to month, long-term rental. But short-term rental has the most possible outcome where we are right now. The neighbors are fantastic. The ball field right next door lends to a myriad of activities. We're close to everything. As you all know, we all live in Independence, so we know where everything is. All of that stuff is listed on the site, so whether they're local or from out of town, they know what all the amenities are in the area. So that's all I've got.
All right. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. You can sit down.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any, but I need to ask. So, anyone in favor of this case that would like to speak? Anyone in favor? Okay, seeing none. Anyone opposed? And I do not see any opposed. All right. Any additional questions for staff or the applicant? All right, I'm going to call this hearing closed.
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Nesbitt.
I make a motion that we approve 25400-02, short-term rental at 2120 North McBride Avenue. No, he just told us that he lives at 2118. He's wanting 2120. So it's
And actually, I can speak to that if you don't mind.
Please speak to that.
Okay. Yeah, so actually, Lewis and I were in correspondence about this today. So initially, whenever Lewis submitted the application for short-term rental, the city utilizes a program called Rentalscape. That program did not allow either the applicant or staff to make that correction to the address. We're in correspondence with Rentalscape, their staff, and they've told us that changes are incoming to allow that change. Otherwise, the applicant can submit another application through Rentalscape, but I think we're intending to just make that edit once we have that ability on Rentalscape.
So do we want it to say 2118 or 2120?
I recommend, like Butch said, to make a motion for approval of a short-term rental at 2120 North McBride.
All right. So you've made that motion?
Yes.
I second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Ferguson. Any additional questions? All right. Seeing no, let's call for the vote.
Commissioner Nesbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ferguson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ashbaugh,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres,
Yes.
Commissioner Young,
Yes.
Chair Wiley.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. Case number 25402, short-term rental at 2120 North McBride Avenue. And congratulations and good luck. All right, that concludes our hearing portion of the meeting, and I will turn the meeting over to Rick Aurora.
Thank you. So I know this is a part you guys have been waiting for. So this is this year's CIP. It's the 2025-2031 Capital Improvements Program. As you guys know, we do this yearly. It's a 6-year program that we go through. All the departments take part of it. We go through every project that we see in the city that needs to be done. We'll kind of talk a little bit about what that includes. So the Capital Improvements Project, kind of the background of it, it's a program that it's a funding, it's a financial document that helps for our budget. It looks at infrastructure, equipment, planning tools to identify projects that we expect to see. And it also identifies the funding sources. Those projects typically include construction, maintenance, upgrades, replacements of any city assets of $100,000 or more. The departments that we include, of course, are police, fire, power and light, parks and rec, municipal services, health and human services this year, and then technology services. This program is a 6-year program, as I mentioned, and it is a fluid document. So, you know, as funding becomes available, as funding changes, as needs change, you know, it's a 6-year document. There's a lot that happens over 6 years. So we do see projects come and go, but we also see projects that are ongoing from year to year, maintenance projects, for example. Quick summary of this year. You're going to see a lot more projects this year. We'll kind of talk about why that is, but there's nearly 200 projects. Typically, we see around 140, 150 projects. And the total cost for that is over $900 million. Which again is also more than what we typically see. This year, as in many other years, municipal services has the most projects. They do cover quite a wide range of utilities, water, sewer, street, storm, and so that typically every year is the department that has the most projects. And we always usually look at the next funding year. So this next funding year for the 2025-2026 is approximately $252 million. And then, of course, the year after that, we'll also look at that typically, and that's $355 million. So some of the largest projects in this next fiscal year is the proposed Justice Center at about $123 million, and of course the Fire Station 8 replacement at around $22 million. So the CIP also goes over funding sources. There's a wide variety of funding sources that we have, a large number of grants, whether state, local, or federal grants, including the American Rescue Plan Act, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality, the STP, Surface Transportation, Transportation Alternatives, I think Reconstructing American Infrastructure Act. So there's a lot of sources that staff looks at and then applies for to try to get money to help dent some of the cost of some of these projects. And of course, along with that are our local department funding sources from power and light, sanitary funds, water funds, tourism funds, along with the sales taxes, including the park sales tax, public safety sales tax, storms, and streets. So the largest funding source for this next fiscal year is combined of our sales taxes. And then the next one after that is a Power and Light Fund. So this year you'll see 62% of some of these projects are unfunded. Typically last year and years prior, we don't typically see the unfunded. Usually there's a place for all these projects to go. This year we're going to talk about that. But what you'll see for some of these unfunded projects, part of that goes into projects that are available from general fund money, but a lot of those are in here and proposed for the future GEO bond that is going to be proposed. So some of the project highlights, police department, we're looking at the Justice Center, as I mentioned. They also have a Motorola site that they're looking at relocating. Fire department, again, the Station 8 project that we talked about, and that's relocating it off of Powell and Truman. And then, of course, Health and Human Services has the Animal Shelter project, part of the proposed GEO bond funds. And Technology Services has some really cool named projects, the Arctic Wolf project, and projects, checkpoint projects that are here for, the safety of our IT and information. And then, of course, Parks and Recs has some Ben and Wagner, along with the Model Railroad Museum projects included in their list. And then, of course, Municipal Services, as I mentioned, has a significant number of projects, some of the larger, bigger projects that I've highlighted in this year's presentation, the Rock Creek Watershed Repair Project, the pump station, the sanitary sewer at Rock Creek project, as well as the water main replacement program that is an ongoing program from year to year. And then, of course, the Independence Power and Light Department, their big project has been the new substation for the North Point development, along with all the infrastructure that goes along with that. So, as you know, the CIP is typically something that we provide to the city manager on April 1st of every year. The process goes, it comes to this body for review and consideration. We really don't look at the budget per se. That's not necessarily our goal. That's the council. They're going to make that determination on which projects actually get funded. But we look at how these projects can impact the neighborhoods that we represent and the population as a whole, and how that impacts on developments, et cetera. So with that, we do have representation from the departments, and typically we start with police and fire if you had any questions regarding those projects. And so, Madam Chair, I'd kind of just recommend that if you have questions, maybe we kind of just go through the departments that are listed here on the project highlights. Just go, police, fire, health and services, technology services, parks and rec, et cetera. If you guys have any questions on any particular projects, or maybe want to have a little bit more insight into that.
So can I ask the representative for the police to come forward? And I want to go ahead and take a point of privilege and just read the very last paragraph of this form. The CIP is a dynamic document that may be changed as the city's infrastructure requirements change, development occurs, or funding opportunities become available. The projects listed are not necessarily listed in priority basis order, and projects listed are not to be construed as a promise to any person or group that it will be completed or completed in a certain time frame. And I think that part's really important for us as citizens and commissioners setting up here, is we're really here to just learn more about some of the big projects and ask our questions on behalf of those that reside in the areas that we're here to serve on. So with that, what do you want to highlight, sir?
I'll introduce myself first. I'm
Yes,
Jason
please.
Peterson, Deputy Chief of Operations Support for the Independence Police Department. And there are several large projects for the police department on this CIP. One of them is obviously the Justice project, the Justice Campus. And that is a sizable project that we know has been needed for quite a while. And it brings everything under not the same roof because there will be independent buildings, but it puts us in a better position for being able to serve the community more efficiently and effectively in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of information that's gone out about that already, and I'd be rehashing an awful lot of that. But if you have any specific questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to.
Chair?
Commissioner?
Okay. Last year, how much was you guys proposing for the Justice Center? Do you know?
The plan has changed quite a bit. I don't have that number off the top of my head.
Well, I got the number. The number last year was 42 million, and now we're at 123 million. I may have missed some stuff. Why has it increased threefolds?
I'd have to look at the scope for that 42 million based upon the size of the project. If that was based on the numbers from 2017 when they were initially looking at it, and construction costs have at least tripled in that amount of time.
Well, I know they talked about that for the 42 million last year, because they brought this up to us last year, and I questioned it last year. So I'm questioning again, how come it went from 42 million to 123 million? And I just want to know if anybody had an answer for that, or if anything, and that's why I thought I'd ask that question. I mean, I'm sure 123 is probably correct, but I'd just like to know why it went up. I mean, if there's something that changed that we didn't know about or something like that?
I'm sure the scope of the project changed.
Okay, so
I think it would be helpful to know, to maybe hear from you what is included in the Justice Center, because that has changed from the beginning.
And if you look back at the 2017 plan, which is I think where that 42 million was kind of balancing on that original plan from 2017, it's changed quite a bit because the court wasn't included in that. So for this to become a justice campus, you're taking essentially everywhere we are right now that serves the court, it has to be moved over there as well. Technology needs have changed quite a bit since then. Our requirements for our safety and welfare of our detainees in our detention facility, that's changed quite a bit. There are a lot of things that it just had to be adapted to improve the work that we would be able to do in that location. Without comparing that plan to this one and the scope, I can't speak to it exactly. But if you look at bringing everything from what we have across the street in the headquarters building out there to IUC, reusing that space as efficiently as we can as the functions of the city government that are there now move out of it. There's some limited remodeling that has to be done to serve our purposes. But again, we're going to reuse that as efficiently as we can. Tie the new building, the new portion of the building into it that has everything from patrol to detention to crime scene to the upper floor being the court and all the public facing part of that building. That is one L-shaped component. Then you also have all of our outbuildings right now that are in different locations, like the old Peniston construction, bringing over the special operations that are out there, such as your crash investigation, motors, the motorcycle officers, the wheels, SWAT, and all of their special use vehicles where we can put them in one place. Same thing with our fleet in our building, or our technology and fleet maintenance, having a building where they can service vehicles, outfit vehicles, refit as needed, that is not a single bay garage on the ground floor headquarters that blocks the detention bay when you take deliveries there.
So you're saying fleet services will be there, not at the municipal?
That's two different things.
Okay.
We have a fleet technician in the police department who does things like work on the electronics. So if we have an MDT that goes down, the computer in the car that the officer uses to respond to calls and complete their reports in the car, if that goes down, the car doesn't go to municipal services.
Oh, okay.
It goes to our in-house fleet technician. So it's a different function.
Gotcha.
That fleet technician is not doing repairs like municipal services handles. He doesn't do tire rotations or oil changes, or we need a transmission rebuilt. That's handled by municipal services out of the city garage.
Okay.
He's taking care of things like electronics. When the lights don't work, the overhead lights don't work, he's working on that type of thing. He's installing radios, replacing those electronics, very police specific type of equipment. Not to take anything away from the central garage, that's just not their function.
Okay.
It would also be moving our canine unit, which is now in the old animal control building on Vista. That is, they like it because it's kind of far away from everybody else, but we'd like to get them back under the umbrella. And it would really, one of the components that we've looked at in that plan is giving them an area to train that is attached to the area where they work. So they'll have their dogs right there. They can take them out and run them through some training courses instead of having to travel somewhere else to do training like they do most of the time now.
Okay.
So is it a fair statement? It sounds like multiple buildings currently
I
are
didn't
being
even, I didn't
moved to
even cover all of
one
them.
area.
Yes.
And to construct that, you've seen the construction cost increase in order to have the room that you need.
That is
And that's really
absolutely
where we
correct.
got where it is today.
The scope of the plan has increased from that original plan from 2017, and construction costs have skyrocketed since 2019 or so.
Gotcha. One other question I have here, though. You're moving the site work $4 million till the following year. Why are we not including it with this proposal?
That has to do with timing and the ability to start completing the site work or begin the site work after we've already got some of the phasing done. It's a phased project because there are folks that are in
Well, I
IUC
understand,
now.
I understand it's a phased project, but why wouldn't we not include it in the 123 million, you say 127 million when we tell people that? I mean, because then they're going to say, well, you guys overspent what you're supposed to. If we already include that 4 million up there, why wouldn't we do that? That's why I don't understand.
I don't know that the 4 million is that. I think that's part of demolition of the police building.
Oh, so we're demolition over here then. Okay.
Right, if
I
that
just-
building's-
I mean, I see site work, that's why I'm thinking site work over there to do stuff over there. That's why you're thinking that. So-
Yeah, I believe that's demolition of the existing police headquarters.
Okay, okay. Well, I was just curious, 'cause I see that and I just want to know what it's for. Okay, thank you.
Any additional projects as a part of CIP you want us to hear about?
Yes, there are 2 phases of the Motorola project, and this is something that we had been planning when, if you remember when the electronics or the Emergency Communications Center was built out there just south of IUC now, which will then be kind of surrounded by the Justice Campus and included in it, should it be built there. That building included a tower. So we had built a tower with the intent that we were going to move the infrastructure from the roof and the upper floors of police headquarters out to that location, geographical center of the city. We also serve as a prime site for some other agencies in Jackson County and help them to support their radio systems and their operations in emergency fashion. That is something that has needed to be done for a number of years. We've been planning on it. It is coming to a head. That's going to need to be done. Regardless of if a justice center moves forward or not, that infrastructure needs to be replaced. And it makes perfect sense to move it out to that tower that is set up to support it now. It was built to that end, and that's just the best plan for it. But we're also coming to the time where it needs to be done. It has 2 phases because the first phase is moving the current infrastructure. The second phase is setting up a redundant site in case we have a catastrophic failure. Say we have a tornado come through and take that tower down, we need to have a fallback. And this is in a location that is currently very limited access and secure.
Question?
Commissioner, go ahead.
Now, that money you guys already got funding for this year, is that correct?
It'll be PST, that'll be public safety sales tax.
Okay, so that's how we're going to get funding for that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else
Nope.
to highlight? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Would anybody like to take a break? Side check in. Okay. Someone here, representative from the fire department.
I'm going to ask if there's anyone online from the fire department.
Do what?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we have anybody here from fire,
Okay.
actually. So.
All right. Parks, come on up.
Okay, where
Is this still being recorded? Because I don't want to, make anybody else feel bad, but the nicest man in the city. All right, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Morris Heidi, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. Glad to be with you this evening. I'll just share a couple highlights. I'm looking at the kind of summary sheet that shows the list of projects. I'm not sure what the page number is. Apologize, I don't have that. So we have several projects listed there. Only a few of those are actually budgeted. Again, which was mentioned previously, this is a planning document, so a lot of projects that are needed to be funded are listed, but obviously the funding is not available. So several projects there are listed. I want to call your attention to the last 4 items under the parks area. These all have the GO in the title of the project. So those are 4 general obligation bond projects. So we have the Truman Memorial Building repairs, $969,000. The Vale Mansion repairs, $2,231,000. Historic Sites Maintenance being in Wagner, $3.7 million. And then the Independence Athletic Complex, which is split over 2 years, so for the 26-27 and 27-28 years. So between those 4 projects, that makes up question number 3, which will be on the GO bond vote on April 8th. And I just wanted to mention, if you're interested in hearing more detail about that, I gave a presentation to the City Council on February 10th on the study session for the question number 3. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for
I have a question.
Mr. Heidi? Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, the memorial building, are we keeping it, is it a historic site or?
It is a historic building. Next year it'll be 100 years old.
Okay.
So,
As I see that the following year, you're asking for $150 million for a Frontier Center and a community center complex. What are we thinking there? That's about $250 million is what you're thinking. Are we going back to the people for this, or are we getting?
that has yet to be determined. We're actually in the process of starting a Trails Center and Cultural Center feasibility study. So some of those details will be worked out. Again, this is a planning tool.
Right,
We
I'm
wanted to
not playing, that's why,
Yep.
but I want people to hear that this is out there. They're wanting another $250 million for next year, or not next year, year after. Yeah, year after.
Again, yeah, just a placeholder. Probably won't be actually next year. Probably next year's CIP, you'd see that shifted to further
Right.
out on the
So you guys
fiscal
are
years.
thinking of putting up a new Frontiers Center. Hopefully we get government bonds or something to help pay for this, or grants or something's what we're thinking, I'm hoping.
Yet to be determined, the funding sources, but yeah, the goal has been, there's been conversations for the last couple of years about replacing the prior, if you remember, the prior National Frontier Trails Museum. We moved out of that site. It's now the Missouri Model Railroad Museum. Its temporary location is in the lower level of the Truman Memorial Building. We view that as a very temporary spot location.
Right.
And so the goal is to have a more robust display of the artifacts. We're the only place in the world that has the trails history like we do, the Queen City of the Trails. So I want to showcase that to the world.
Do we have a site that we're thinking about that we know of, or not?
Great question. This feasibility study actually will look at 4 locations and then shortlist those as we go through that process. So more information will be forthcoming on the location.
Okay, thank you.
Right, any additional questions? Anything else you'd like to highlight, sir?
I think that covers it.
Oh,
So-
one other question here. So all the other ones that we have listed here, the demolition for Oasis, Sermon Center roof, all those are funded this year?
No, actually they are not. So
They're not. Okay.
again, that column reflects, some of those are planned items that are just placeholders. Only the 140 for the caboose, the 200,000 for Rock Creek Trail Bridge, skipping down to Sermon Center HVAC, 250,000, and then the 2 Mill Creek and Santa Fe playground replacements. Those are the only items funded. So that's a total of 940. And then again, the bottom 4 are the GO bond question 3.
Okay. So the one last year, did we get anything done on the Sermon Center roof?
No.
No.
We have held off on that.
Because now you're saying air conditioning, I guess, and we had roof last year, so that's why I was curious.
Both of those items we have been kind of intentionally stalling on. If you recall, Last summer into fall, there was talk about a recreation center being part of the GeoBond conversation. So we didn't think it was prudent to invest in a lot of infrastructure in the building. Obviously, if there's emergency repairs, we'd have to deal with that. But we actually put that on hold, again, waiting to see how the GeoBond conversation would go. Unfortunately for us, that didn't make the cut, so to speak, of the GeoBond questions that are before the voters in April. So,
Well, is the Sermon Center a historic site or not?
no, it is not.
Okay, so basically, that's why we don't want to spend much money on it in case we tear it down.
Could be in the future. We never know.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Right, any additional questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I wanted to point out that we do have Melissa here from the Finance Department if you had some questions on the fire.
Okay. Come on over. So I know the fire department has movement and new stations, so please introduce yourself, and then what do you want us to know?
Sure. So I am Melissa Cabrera. I am the Director of Finance as of January 6th of this year. So before that, I served as the Budget Director or Budget Manager, so some of you might remember me from last year. I can't speak to a lot of the details on the fire department just because I have not been in on design calls and things like that. But I can talk a little bit about financing, how that project is moving forward. I know some of you had questions just a moment ago with Assistant Chief Peterson. I want to point out construction costs right now are growing about 1.5% per quarter. So when we look at some of these projects and when they are growing significantly over the past few years, that's part of it. And post-COVID, it has added a lot just in inflationary cost to some of the projects. So while there might have been some changes to scope and things like that, it's also just due to rising costs, from our preliminary estimates that we were given on some of these projects. So on the fire department projects, we have at the meeting next week a first reading for financing to fund those 3 fire station projects. They are staggered out over multiple years. On the funding side of that, it will be funded by, we would be issuing bonds for those. And then on the fire side, it would be paid for by the fire sales tax. And with a portion of it, that fund has been growing a fund balance over the past few years. So whenever that sales tax increased from 1/8% to 0.5%, there is a significant fund balance in that account. You might remember that half of it was to be spent for personnel costs and half of it to be spent on capital expenditures. Also included in that bond financing that Mr. Peterson just pointed out is the remodeling of the IUC building for the police headquarters, in place of having their new Justice Center.
Can you speak to, I know you're finance, so funding is not really our purview here.
Right.
But just in concept, when 900 and some odd million for over 200 projects, and kind of the realistic budget of over the next 6 years, what the city intends or can put into effect and spend?
Right. I mean, it's very limited. And it might be eye-popping whenever you see these numbers in the CIP plan. It does not mean that the city will be able to move forward or intends to move forward with all of these projects. But it does play into things like when we go in for bond ratings. If you don't have a fully developed CIP, it is something that they look for. So when we go on calls with S&P, they will look at our plans. The other thing that we've been working on with departments is that a lot of the departments have their own individual facilities plans or master plans that have, they've gone into the master plans, but they've never been pulled into the CIP. And so, they might never even make it to you all to see or to the public to see. And so I think it can be staggering because at one point I heard over the $1 billion number is what we had in capital needs, but our CIP never reflected that. So yes, CIP is separate from budget, and so I know it can be a little bit difficult to think about it in that way because these are projects that we probably want to do or need to do, but they don't always happen, for funding reasons.
Okay, any additional questions?
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, can you tell me what projects fire got done last year, or did they get anything done last year?
They did not start construction on any of their buildings, no.
Because I'm going by last year's numbers. The Station 8 replacement, you got $22 million. Last year was $13.5, so we're almost doubled that one. Add Station 11, you guys moved it off now for 2 more years. It started at $7 million, now it's up to $18 million. So prices just keep going up and up and up, so I'm hearing. Why don't we go ahead and issue the bonds now since they think we're going to pay for it, the city will eventually pay for it, instead of spreading this out and costing us double, triple the money? I don't understand.
And so that's exactly what we're doing by moving forward with issuing the bonds. And so when you see it go to council next week, it will be for financing for 3 fire stations. And we do have a much faster construction pace. Unfortunately, we're not able to manage 3 major construction projects for fire departments plus the renovation of the IUC. And so those projects do have to be split out a little bit. We have, fully developed budgets for that account for that 1.5% per quarter increase in the construction. But that's one of the major things that we have been working on and that we're moving toward is getting those projects done faster so that we can decrease that inflationary component.
Yeah, because, it seems like we just keep kicking things down the road and it's costing us triple that. My other question is going to be for the fire, which you probably don't know. F102 and F201, the pumpers, are we doing that $1.5 million this year for each one, or that's just something they'd like to have?
We're still in the budget development process, so I'm not 100% sure what's in their budget. I know in the past few years they have been purchasing pumpers on a much faster replacement schedule just because they have had the funding available in their public safety sales tax. And they've also been able to get at least one, I don't know if it was an apparatus or if it was a pumper, but they were able to get one at a significant discount because someone had ordered it and then decided not to take it. Okay. So, but again, fire pumpers are something else. Vehicle costs are going up, but
right.
And fire pumpers certainly aren't excluded from that.
Right. Because last year you guys were only talking 500,000. Now we're talking $1.5 million. So that's quite a bit. That's 3 times as much, I'm saying.
Well, and I will give credit to Chief Walker. So Chief Walker is new, and so he has really been going through all of his CIP programs, coming up, with closer costs as to what's anticipated. I can tell you that replacement of Station 8 is not the $22 million. So they are being very budget minded. So okay. We developed this much before we started in October, and they were due in November from the departments. So there have been some changes, whether they've gone back and they've said, no, we can actually cut down the costs for this. Chief Walker has been instrumental in that. But he's also been looking at the prices of pumpers, talking with our central garage to see, what are the actual costs that we've been seeing on those and getting some true numbers to put out here into the CIP. Okay. So that's why you see some changes because we weren't buying fire apparatus for $500,000. They were more expensive than that.
Okay. So just to clarify, you guys are going to go ask for a bond probably for almost $60 million to do all 3 stations. Is that correct?
So it is. It's up to $50 million right now.
Okay, 50
yes, and that includes paying some of it from the fire sales tax fund balance, and that includes 3 fire stations, and it includes the renovation costs of the IUC for the police department. Those are all wrapped up in funding together.
Now, does that have to go before the vote of people, or is that something just city council can do?
The city council approves it by
Okay,
ordinance, yeah.
Okay,
Because we're using existing revenue streams.
okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, Commissioner Ashfall.
Can you speak to what the current condition is of the street and parks tax? Is that, are the revenues on that going up? Are they stable? Are they going down?
On the streets and the parks tax?
Yes, because there's a couple of projects in here that want to address that. And I guess my question is, are we losing ground because that tax is not keeping up with the needs of the system, or are we just trying to get ahead of the game, or both?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, it's an issue with all of our sales taxes. Our sales taxes are growing. Right now, I'm projecting about a 1% increase next year. I will be surprised if we hit that. But sales taxes just are not growing. All of our revenues are not growing at the same pace that our expenditures are. So we might be seeing some increases, but it's all the same in all the funds. Their expenses are all outpacing that revenue growth at this point.
Okay, so when this GO bond is passed, let me start over. So when the Memorial Building was first renovated, a lot of the tax money was going to debt service.
I'm sorry, when which building?
Memorial Building.
Okay.
When it was first renovated.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a lot of debt service on the current, that's being serviced with the current taxes?
No, I was just double checking, but there's no debt service on that now.
Okay. All right, I was just curious because I was involved in it back then.
Yeah.
Apparently we were able to do a lot more back then than we can now, so.
Yes, yep. Well, and in the past few years, we've been lucky with things like the use tax because it has provided pretty substantial growth for all of our sales tax funds. But we're at a point now that we've kind of hit our maximum after the Wayfair decision and the way that Missouri is now calculating which businesses should be paying use tax in the state. That revenue growth is going to stall, I don't want to say stall out, but it's not going to be the same that we've seen. Whereas we have seen, 20, 30, 40% growth month over month. Now we're much closer to a normal growth, and it appears to be maybe even slowing more with our even with our sales taxes. I do a lot of projections and looking at things like actual business activity month to monitor how sales taxes are performing, and right now we're basically at a flat growth.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, anything else you'd like us to know?
I don't think so.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, would anybody like to take a break? All right, we're going to keep going. All right, I would like to call up who's the lucky winner. Christina, come on up.
What's this one?
Health and Human Services.
I only got one thing.
But it's a good one.
Good evening. I'm Christina Heinen. I'm the Director of Health and Animal Services for the City of Independence. I have a simple one. I have one thing on the CIP, and that is only if our bond passes on April 8th. It is to purchase the shelter for $3 million from the county and make the shelter building a city asset. As you guys probably know, it already sits on city land, but it is a county-owned building. There have been difficulties over the years, sometimes when dealing with the building and having some items fixed. We would like to solve that issue and go ahead, and the $3 million would be to essentially pay off the bond that the county still has outstanding, that amount, and to take that over. I'm open to any questions.
All right, I have a question for you.
Yes, of course.
So we paid $3 million for the building, but we know that there are immense issues that need fixed.
So we have been working with the county
Okay.
for the last few years, and they have made strides on correcting some of those issues and are continuing to do that. One of their HVAC guys was out there just this last week.
Okay.
And I spoke with him. I know I have been communicating about the plumbing, and just this last Friday, they gave the go-ahead to fix some of the issues with our fire suppression system.
Okay.
So they are fixing some of the items that need fixed.
Any understanding, quotes maybe even, on some of the additional big things that you're concerned about?
So we've been working with the county on some of those big things. A lot of the items, the county wants us to be able to move forward with, or they're going to look at, but they're watching also that April 8th GO bond to see how it goes. They know that that's when we will be serious about working out that contract and having deficiencies fixed.
I know I asked you offline, so I'll ask online so it's in the record. Any concerns about some of the news with Jackson County Animal Services, KC Pet Project, how that's affecting that, and our relationship with Jackson County?
So city staff have always had a good relationship with their counterparts, whether it's at Kansas City or Jackson County, or at Jackson County. We have our own staff that we work through directly there, and we have good relationships with, with not just Kansas City Pet Project and Jackson County, but with Wayside Waifs, with Great Plains. We still talk to all of them. We sit on different groups with them, different committees. We work to transfer animals back and forth throughout our region. We have good working relationships with the staff.
And I'm going to ask you to do something personal. Can you just share with us why it's important that we keep animal services in Independence?
Well, for me, I first can just give my opinion. I can tell you that our animal control officers have approximately 5,000 cases a year that they deal with for Independence. We see about 2,000 animals come in. The large majority are animals from Independence. If we were to move back to a smaller facility, such as the one on Vista that's now the canine facility, it would be an immense task to run it as a no-kill shelter. It is a much smaller facility. Independence, we love our animals, we value them, we want to be able to take care of them. I hear that from our volunteers every day. I hear that from our citizens who come out. And we want to do what we can to help all of our citizens, whether they are two-legged, four-legged, three-legged, we are there.
All right. Any questions for Christina?
Chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at the facility right now, do we run it or do we just rent a spot? How's that work?
We operate the facility. Those are city staff that are there working.
So we rent the place, I'm guessing what you say.
What we do is we trade, it's city land, it's county building, and in exchange for them paying what is essentially the mortgage, we provide animal control and sheltering services for the unincorporated areas of Jackson County and Jackson County parks. So if somebody's out at Lake Jacomo and there's a stray dog running, that dog is going to end up there at our shelter.
Okay, so basically we rent from the county, is what I'm saying, basically. Okay. I heard that it costs us about $1.5 million to run that every year, is that correct?
For animal control and sheltering, yes.
Okay. How's that funded? The city fund?
It's a combination of Prop P and the Recreation Health Fund.
Okay, so we're no problem with funding it if we buy it or anything?
Well, there's always going to be problems with funding.
Well, I just want to make sure.
Melissa just spoke. Taxes are always going down. They're leveling out. I don't want to lie to you.
Okay.
Insurance goes up every single year. The cost of vaccines goes up every single year. I cannot tell you that there will never be a problem.
Okay, so we rent from the county right now for what I heard is $1. Is that correct? Okay.
By contract, yes.
Okay, so our contract, how long is that contract good for?
The contract actually was a 2-year contract that expired back in 2021.
So it's a month-to-month contract, basically.
You could say that.
Usually that's what happens when contracts go like that, they go to month-to-month. My question then is going to be, she asked about repairs. You don't know a price on how much repairs would be after the $3 million?
It depends on how many repairs the county has left. They've worked on the roof. There are still some additional items that are needed on the roof, but it is much better than it was. They have done $81,000 worth of repairs to the HVAC. It appears to be functioning now. There's still some minor repairs on plumbing. They've authorized the fixes to the fire suppression system. So many of the larger items are being knocked out and are expected to be knocked out by the county before we take possession. For an ongoing basis for maintenance for the facility, which I think is really what we're getting to, the plan, and it is a plan, because as Melissa said, we are in the middle of budget, and until everything is finalized, I can't tell you what a sure plan would be that once we own the facility, we own the land, it's ours, we can charge and be a regional animal shelter. We can contract with the county. We can contract with Sugar Creek. We can contract with Buckner. We can contract with all of those facilities and charge them to bring the animals in.
That's the plan then?
That is the plan in order to be able to have that maintenance and have that other revenue source coming in that we could control.
Okay. I forgot my other questions.
All right, Commissioner O'Neill, I believe had a question?
Yeah, previously I've understood that the county was a little bit hesitant to sometimes respond to our needs. What is your evaluation as far as, are they receptive to selling the property to us?
We have met with them several times, and they have indicated that they are receptive. They are interested in no longer being in the animal control, animal sheltering business. They would like for us to come back with money in hand before they will sit down and have a firm contract.
So that it's possible we could negotiate a better price.
Absolutely, it's possible.
Thank you.
Oh, when was that built, that facility?
The facility was finished in 2012. They started 2009.
All right. Any additional questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to go ahead and call up technology. I'm saving the two biggest departments for last.
All right. Good evening. I'm Jason Newkirk, the IT director. Since I only have 3 CIPs, I'll just tell you about all 3 of them.
All right. Go for it.
Okay. So our first 2 that are going to be coming up in this upcoming budget year are both security-related projects, Arctic Wolf and Checkpoint. Arctic Wolf is our security operations center as a service, and basically what that means is we've got a company that does 24/7 monitoring on all of our traffic and our network, and then part of what they do is they're looking through everything and then alerting us of anything that's of importance. And so that then goes to our security team for investigation and remediation. So that's the first one. Next is Checkpoint. So Checkpoint is a combination of hardware, software, and service, but it essentially provides endpoint protections to all of our devices as well as firewalls to protect external threats from within our network. And that one's another one that's going to be purchased in this upcoming budget year. And then our last one is our data center replacement. So our current data center was put in place in 2020, and we're usually try to stay on about a 7-year cycle on those, not just because hardware gets old and out of date, but also the ongoing maintenance costs get much higher once you get into that 7th and 8th year. So we're trying to head that off and get that replacement in the 7th year.
All right, I have a question for you. We know technology is the thing that moves the fastest, changes, grows, et cetera. From a budgetary standpoint, And from a use standpoint, updating every 6 to 10 years, is that really keeping us ahead of potential problems? I do know that there was a problem, a year ago with some hacking that occurred?
So in 2020, prior to putting any of these security tools in place, yeah.
So that was prior?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So are we where we need to be by adding these?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that the two security tools that we're going to extend this year, so they're both in place right now. I'm gonna say they're essential to us providing secure operations moving forward. Any other questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Go ahead.
Your funding is just from where?
Just out of the general fund.
General fund?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know we need to have it funded, so I'm sure that's funded.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
These security services, what's the vetting process for them?
The vetting process? Well, we went through those, we went through that vetting process back in 2020. So kind of the current vetting process is the fact that we've been using those tools for the last 5 years and have been very pleased with them. I'll say that we use them on a daily basis, right? Our security team makes use of those alerts and then uses the endpoint tools to run down any investigations and then can quickly put blocks in place when necessary.
Okay. Yeah. So you folks choose the service?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any additional questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go with Power and Light.
Good evening. I'm Joe Hagenduffer, the Director of Power and Light, and I feel like I just won something. I don't know. That's pretty.
Come on
nice. I
down.
appreciate that. So, so if you wanted to ask for me to highlight any projects, really, I'd kind of group them together. If you look at the middle, so we have $23.8 million worth of projects this year, right? A group of those, right kind of in the middle top group, is a bunch of Substation S projects. So construction of some new transmission lines, some distribution feeders, and that is all for the growth and economic development out at the Eastgate Commerce, which is out along the Little Blue Valley. So we need to build a new substation out there and run some distribution feeders down along the Little Blue Valley to supply any of those new buildings as they continue to grow out there. And that's about $6.5 million right there alone. We spent $5 million purchasing transformers for that substation. And that is, I pointed that out because the next big item on my list is a replacement of 4 100 MVA transformers, and those are transmission voltages. So 2 50 MVA transformers cost about $5 million, and these are broken up into 2 purchases of $8.5 million, which is a group of 2, and then another group of 2 100 MVA transformers. The electric business is very expensive, right? And all of these are the 100 MVA transmission transformers are really replacing some aged transformers. They're getting pretty old. They've been in existence for, nearing 50 years, right? So I don't want to wait till they fail before I start replacing those. We've kept really good maintenance on them for a long time, but we need to start planning replacements on those. And so if you take those 2 projects, that's $15 million out of the 23.8. And if you guys recall, we're usually in that $8 to $10 million range. But that puts us right back at about $8.8 million. I did have one more project other than most of these are just general maintenance items that Power and Light needs to do, pole replacements, transformer replacements, upgrades of facilities to keep the lights on for everybody in the city. Another project I did want to point out is 202617. It's a Sub-R Country Meadows new 13 kV feeder. So if you guys remember, we had a big storm last year and we lost Country Meadows subdivision for a few days, really, and it was because that had a single feeder that goes into that subdivision. I don't want you guys to think that this is $1 million project just feeding Country Meadows. We're actually designed and are going to run a feeder along the south side of all of those subdivisions on the south side of 40 Highway, west of 291. So, and this is going to help the reliability of that whole region. So that, I think, is a good project. We're looking not only to keep things running and keep what we're doing, but also to increase the reliability within our city. With that, if you guys have any questions on any specific projects, I'd be more than happy to answer.
do.
Excellent.
I'm okay with spending money for infrastructure that's going to bring economic development. Can you address the opportunity for future data centers and upgrades or needs or costs that we need to be willing to consider for our own power and light to bring those in?
So that's kind of a twofold, right? So lines, wires, and things that actually attach to the data center is one portion of that, which the Sub-S, the initial Sub-S construction projects is part of that. If you look on the sheet that has all of our projects, down at the very bottom, 203101 is actually a 169 to 69 kV at Sub-S for 25 million, and it's a few years out. Okay. That will help bring even more power to that region to be able to bring things like data centers and higher energy. Okay. So when you start talking megawatts, right, so I can power probably 20 megawatts in the valley as it stands. If I bring this in, then I can raise that up to, 80, 100, 200 megawatts and even more. So we have a current project with UET Rainbow Ventures. I don't know if any of you guys had heard of that, to build some generation back at our little Blue Valley site and enter into a purchase power agreement with us to be able to provide a data center with power, because that's the other portion of the equation, is lines and wires to hook them up, and then you have to have the power to actually provide them. So we're trying to do that in conjunction with a lot of the developments that's interested in coming in this town.
And then has a decision been made on future purchases? I'll just say like a new turbine that's, a 30-year contract, and we pay for it for, in the past for 50 years. So
yeah, no, it's an excellent question, and I understand. So this year, now that we have the decision of are we going to own IPL or not, and the city made the decision to continue ownership of its own municipal electric company, I have committed that this year I'm going to do what's called an integrated resource plan, and that gives you a long look at all of our assets, specifically stating to generating assets, and I need to develop that plan this year so that I can start implementing the strategic replacement of those old age turbines and also the growth of any other additional generating assets that I need. I want to do that strategically and develop a plan to do that, and not just start bringing projects and turbines in front of us. I want to do that in a very thoughtful manner. So I want to develop an integrated resource plan, and I'm going to have help with that. And that's going to happen this year. And then I will update that plan probably annually, but on a big sense every 3 years, to make sure that we're continuing on that track and things haven't changed.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions?
Yeah, well, on that track, so
Yes,
we're
sir.
thinking the coal will never be used, so that's why we got to tear down the chimney?
The coal will never be used.
Okay.
So I said it at PUAB, and I'll say it here. The Blue Valley power plant as it stands will never fire again. Those assets are long gone. We're not going to burn coal.
Okay.
Even if I was told, So it would be financially irresponsible of me to try to start that plant back up and spend the amount of money it would take to get it back up and running, rather than purchase new turbines. It would probably...
New turbines would be better to be put there.
Absolutely. So not only would they be cheaper than trying to refurbish that and burn coal, they would be more efficient, less CO2
These are natural gas
emissions.
turbines, right?
Natural gas, but what we're looking at for this Rainbow Energy project for the data center would be gas turbines with diesel backup, because as we've found in some of these winter storms where gas, right, goes to residents first, understandably, and then the power company, well, if I need to burn some diesel fuel and keep the lights on for everybody, it's less than ideal burning natural gas, but sometimes the fuel drives that decision, so.
Okay, so they'd be backup diesel.
They'd
Okay.
be backup diesel, yes, sir.
And how many can we put down there at the Blue Valley place?
Well, the current plan is going to have several of them down there.
Well, I was just curious what
had
our plan- I haven't heard
haven't
the
had
plan.
a final, well, because it's still in development, that's
okay.
why, to be honest. We haven't actually signed a purchase power agreement with them. They did put in an SPP generator interconnect queue to put those turbines there, and they're going to put 5 of the same turbines that I was going to put 2. And that would be phase 1 to get us to 200 megawatts, which we've had several data centers request that amount of power.
So do you need to move up your 25 million that's off 6 years, move it up?
I may have to, yes.
Okay, so.
Depends on how quickly. So you have to, to me, I want to look at this in 2 separate things. A data center is going to have new generation built at the Blue Valley Power Plant specifically for it.
Right.
This 25 megawatts is for other development within the Little Blue Valley and the East Gate. So,
okay,
so
okay.
let's see how quickly that expands out, and I may have to move that in, yes. But a data center would have its own generation, separate from this.
Now, funding for all our projects, we're good with?
They're through rates, right?
Yep.
They're all through electric rates, and
Right.
I just got 2 weeks ago hired on a new finance manager. Excited to get them on board and get them up to speed so that we can update our financial projections and look at that, and then start talking about if and when rate adjustments would be needed for the continued operation of us.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
All right. Any additional questions? Wow. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Oh, wait a minute, I did have one more question. I'm
Sorry.
I'm so
I got
sorry.
I got my notes here
No,
and I
you're good.
forgot to look at it. So the fleet vehicle equipment, 10-year placement, is that for one vehicle or how many vehicles we buying each year?
So I don't have the specific list, but looking at 500,000 is probably 2 vehicles.
That's what I wanted to make. I'm
yeah,
sure that's what it looked like to me.
They're not cheap.
Yeah,
and, and those, to be honest, right now a bucket truck is about a 3 to 5 year lead time. It takes me a long time.
You see
to
a
get.
whole bunch of them sitting over here off 435, but they can't sell them, I guess.
I've seen those. I don't know the specifics of those. Those might not meet our requirements. I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know who we buy from, but somebody told me that all those are spoken for, and I'm going, really?
Probably, because they take a long time to get.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And anyone here from Municipal Services?
This is where my big one comes
And please let us know who you are, because you're
Evening.
definitely not Lisa Reynolds.
No. Good evening. My name is Matt McLaughlin. I'm a Deputy Director for Municipal Services. Just kind of, I guess, maybe highlight what we have in this budget. Total of 106 projects, 57 projects for this year's funding. We deal with 5 funds and up to 8 different grants to meet the funding of all those projects. This year's total is about $63 million for the department. Some of the highlights on the projects, I guess I'll mention, is most of these are grant funded. A couple of in the stormwater section would be our Rock Creek watershed pipe repair, and then also our Leslie Crane. They were ARPA projects that were gotten underway and doing construction on those. then moving on to our Nolan multimodal corridor. That was a RAISE grant that we've started design work on that. Construction on that will be in a couple of years down the road, but we are under design. And then we've got our Winter Road Complete Streets, another grant-funded projects that we're looking at going from basically Englewood area all the way up to 24 or Highway 24. One clarification I did want to point out, I believe there was a mistake on our Go Bond projects. It looks like we had some older numbers in there. Just to update everybody, it should be $30 million for the Go Bond on our street reconstruction and overlay. Then we had $15 million in the Go Bond for our bridges and culverts, and then another $10 million for sidewalk improvements. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
These municipal services.
I think my question, the current facility right there on Chrysler, right?
Oh,
Is
yes.
that you?
Yeah.
Part of Public Works?
Yes.
Would that be moving as a part of kind of the new build of services for the city, or?
Yeah, that would be, we've started trying to fund and build up funds for our, I'm sorry.
Spring Branch.
Spring Branch, thank you.
Yes, I could-
Spring Branch facility, where we're going to combine actually several of not only the facilities there with streets in Central Garage, but we're also looking at moving wastewater, water, stormwater, all into that one facility at Spring Branch.
Okay.
So those funds will all be contributing into that to where we would have one facility where multiple areas would be functioning out of. So that's the plan.
And then is the plan then to sell the unused locations?
That would be, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
While we're on Spring Branch, the $5 million for last year, did we get that set aside, or what happened to it?
It's in as far as the capital budget, yes, it's
so
earmarked for that project,
So
and
that's
we
last
continue to buy them.
Okay, my question's going to be, why did we have 5 of them this year? Why didn't we break it all down into one Spring Branch?
Because, like I said, we deal with 5 different funds, so each fund is contributing towards that.
part of it.
So the water, sanitary,
So each category, the 11241, it says 280,000. The 30241,
Yep.
it's 2.5 million. So that's what I was trying to figure out.
Those-
Because last year you guys had Spring Branch all as one thing, 5
yeah,
million each
yes. But now this year, we've separated it out so that all funds are contributing to their share, if you will, to what's going to be in that facility.
But are we not all under one roof now, or not?
We are under one roof, but we are a combination of enterprise funds, we have tax funds, we have general funds in there. So we can't
So, okay,
intermix
now,
all
let's
those
just back
funds.
up here then. Why are we taking it out of the tax funds that are designated for like street tax for streets, sewer for sewer? Are we taking it out of those funds?
I do not believe we're taking it out of the tax funds, it's out of the enterprise funds and then general fund as well.
Okay.
I don't believe the tax funds
I'd
could,
just like to get that verified, because, I mean,
Understand.
maybe she could verify that, because that's not what the people voted for us, to take it out of their tax funds.
right.
So-
No, I do not believe we can use those for that. Like the street tax fund was
Right.
specifically for maintenance on the roads.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's just one question there. Whenever you're ready, I've got more.
Continue, sir.
Okay, so our GO bond is 55 million, correct?
Yes.
The way I figured it up, we need 123 million, almost 130 million to fix the streets and roads according to what I have on these papers.
For all the miles.
Not all the miles, this is all the projects.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
Possibly, yes.
Yeah, okay, okay, well.
Depends upon
I
what
mean,
you want to do with them.
But the thing is, we're only asking for 55 million from the voters, from the people. But we have bridges that are broken, that need to be fixed, and they are not moving up the project line. They're staying out there. They're hoping this pass. If it doesn't pass, what are we going to do?
We're going to have to make room for it. But we've only got so much money, and
I know we only have so much money, but
Okay.
I know you guys put different things, like you want to put a stoplight at 47th and Northfleet, which I don't understand why. It's four-way stop, been working there for years, and why all of a sudden now we're moving this up to put a stoplight. I don't understand. That does not make sense. I can go here and find the number. I'm thinking it's $1 million. That's $1 million for a stoplight that a four-way stop's been working there for years. Who decided we need to put a stoplight there?
I believe there were some safety issues or concerns there that they felt a stoplight would be more, would help to prevent those kind of issues.
I'd have to disagree because lots of people like to run the stoplights, and that's where we have the wrecks, when it's always been a four-way.
That's what's stopping them from running the stop sign.
I mean, because they're used to that. But I'm just saying, projects like that, the roundabout there at Inglewood's another one of those projects that I know several $1 million.
That's grant funded.
That one's going to be grant funded? Okay. The Nolan Road corridor,
That's grant funded.
some of it, not all of it.
You're right.
That's what I'm saying. So you guys want to spend money there when we have bridges that are absolutely broken that need to be fixed instead. That's why I don't understand why our projects are getting, I know you guys put numbers on these projects. Some of them I have to disagree with because some of them are not 10% of the people, or 50% of the people use it in Independence. They're probably less than 10. I know we put a lot of emphasis on bicycles. If people drive around, I probably see on average maybe 100 bikes a year. So I know that's beyond the point. So I'm saying some of these projects are not needed yet. What happened to our Nolan Road and Lynn Court project that I fought against for years, and now it's not happening? Did that money get put back into what? You know?
With the Nolan Road and Lynn
General.
Court, we're looking at some funding, hopefully with development coming into that area. That's not been ironed out yet, so we don't know what
Okay, so
the
that got,
future's gonna
because
be.
I don't see it on here no more. It disappeared. So
Right.
that's why I wondered what happened to that project, because that was on there for years. Let's see, what else do I have here?
While you're thinking, Rick, could I ask you to kind of just give a really quick overview, because Commissioner Nesbitt mentioned it, was kind of the rating system and how many citizens it helps, and kind of give a general kind of overview to,
Yeah.
you know,
and,
when we look at these projects and they have a rating number.
Correct. And probably I'll kind of answer that, and maybe Melissa might be able to answer that even a little bit more in detail. But there is for every project that we have, there's a scoring essentially. But understand, this isn't just, we don't look at these scorings as this project's better than this project. All these projects are important. And, you know, for various reasons. And we do understand that, you know, there are feelings towards one project or another, and some projects are going to have a larger impact maybe to a certain part of the city versus another. But we still can't ignore the fact that, you know, there is a safety issue at a particular intersection, right? And we still can't ignore the fact that there needs to be a bridge in another part of the city. And even if that bridge only serves a certain portion of the city versus an entire watershed for, you know, a stormwater improvement project, for example. So all the projects are important, and we have to, as staff, look at every single one of them. And ultimately, it'll be council that will determine which projects get funded. And the scoring that we look at it's based off of a lot of different factors. It's intended to look at how that's going to impact certain regions of the city, how many, you know, people it's going to impact. Is it something that's federally mandated? Is it something that's funded through grants or something to that effect? So, but it's not necessarily a scoring to say that one project's more important than the other. They're all important. It's just a matter of, you know, how can we fund these projects, but we have to also know the need before we can even figure out how we're going to pay for it. And so I don't know if that helps answer that question, and maybe Melissa, I don't know if you can maybe provide in a little bit more detail of how that scoring works with the CIP, but again, it's not something that's to say this project's more valuable than another.
I just thought that was an important kind of conversation maybe we need to have, and you did say Melissa could probably add more, so
I mean, actually, he hit the nail on the head with it. I mean, when you look through these, there's two areas that we rate against. One is BPA, or Basic Program Attributes, and that measures things like risk mitigation and resilience. So if we do this project, is it likely that we'll have less accidents, in which maybe the city will have some liability in, or just in general, where we might have people getting hurt at a particular, intersection. Things like mandated to provide a program. We could have a program that basically scores a 0, but if it's a federal or a state mandate, it's something that we have to do. So the scores, yes, help us identify things that maybe go to meeting, these basic program attributes, or going to meeting our strategic plan, things that we really want to do. But sometimes there are other factors that kind of mitigate that, and we have to do projects just because we have to. Unfortunately, that's, the public doesn't always like that. We don't always like it here because there are other things that we want to do. But it's just the way that it is.
Okay. So. Thank you. All right, next question.
Okay. I see dump trucks on here a lot. How many dump trucks do we need to buy this year?
I believe we're buying, let's see, I'm trying to remember all the different funds.
Well, we got
3 total.
And 350,000. So you got about 600,000.
Right, I believe 3 total. Depends upon the funds. If I can add them up, I'm sorry.
No, that's what
Apologize for that.
I see 2 of them here. That's why I was trying to figure out. Because we bought some new ones, about 5 years ago now, or 4 years ago?
Yes.
So I was just curious,
But again, with the 5 different funds, that's what we're spreading out across here. So we got streets, we got sanitary, we got water, we got storm, they all use dump trucks, so.
Well, yeah, they all use dump trucks. I'm just curious, because the average dump truck's probably 150 to 200,000. That's why I was wondering how many we planned on buying.
Yeah, and I believe there's one for streets that would be set up for snow plows as well, so they'll be using that for snow removal. So that's a little more expensive to get outfitted, but yeah.
Okay. So let's see what else I got here. So the spring, I just can't figure out why we need to break it down to different departments. That's, since it's all into one department now, it seems like to me we're breaking it down.
Since we have enterprise funds and we have general funds, and then we have our tax funds, we can't intermix those. We have to keep those separate. An enterprise fund like water, sewer, electric can't be used towards the general fund. You cannot mix those funds, so we have to keep them separate. So that's why we have separated that all out.
The Spring Branch, they're going to take money out of a fund. What was that fund specifically for? Well, you said the enterprise fund. I'm trying to figure this out.
Enterprise is your utilities, if you will. They get their funding through rates. The ratepayers, the citizens that pay for the water, the sewer, and the electric. That's how we fund those projects. But a general fund is through taxes and that sort of thing. It's against the charter to mix those funds, if you will.
Okay,
we can't take water funds to support the general fund.
Now, so if we get this other $5 million, are we going to build the Spring Branch this year, or what's our plans?
I do not believe it's this year. I'm not sure when. We have looked at funding and costs. Again, they tend to grow. Again, we have to look at what we absolutely have to have, what we would like to have, and get that balance to what we can get it done. But it will not be built in the next year. So.
Okay, so it will not come about. So we're saying that $5 million will probably not be used this year, is what you're thinking.
Yes, correct.
But we're setting it aside, hopefully.
Yes, that's why we're continuing to put it in the budget.
Okay. Well,
yes.
It's going to be kind of hard when we're asking for $262 million where we don't have the funds to get it. Everybody's gambling on this GEO bond, hopefully. So, that's why I'm seeing it. There's just lots of questions, lots of different things. So, I think that's the biggest thing. It just was about the different funds there.
Okay.
Anything else you want us to know?
I don't believe at this time.
All right. Any additional questions, anyone?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Rick, well done on CIP.
Well, I would thank all the representatives from all the departments.
You know what I noticed? We had very few department heads. Maybe that compliment to their deputy and
We have very competent, capable people here at the city.
yes, you do.
Okay, hey, Rick?
Yeah.
Question here for you. So, your graph, could you put it back up of what's funded and not funded? Okay, so we got 62% unfunded. Last year, everything was funded that we proposed. So, I mean, what are we thinking here? I mean, I don't know if you can speak for everybody on that, or what's the deal here?
I couldn't really speak for everyone on that. Is there a specific?
Well, I'm just asking, if we're saying, I approve this to go on to the city council, I'd like to know where this other 62% supposed to come from. I mean, what, is it all geo bond, or what's the deal?
I think Melissa will probably help answer that question. Thank you.
So last year, we did have a category on the funding sources that was for GeoBond. This year, we made it unfunded because until voters decide whether they want to approve it or not, they are unfunded. And the $252 million, these are just needs that we've identified. It does not mean that it will all make it into the budget.
Well, I understand.
Yeah,
I know
so,
that, yeah.
so yeah, I just want to clarify that's why you see that different amount there, is just because last year, they were identified as being funded with the GeoBond, but because that is not something that we know that we're going to get or not.
No, you didn't have GeoBond, because GeoBond was set for this year thing. Everything was supposedly that they proposed was funded for last year on the CIPs. According to what my paperwork that I printed off, everything was totally supposed to be funded. I don't know if it ended up being, some of the projects didn't go through, so that's what I'm saying.
Well, sure. So, and that's what happens with the CIP. So when we put the CIP together and what we instructed departments to do were not to just list things that they knew they were going to be able to fund. CIP development happens outside of budget development. And then once we can determine the budgets, what we know what our ongoing operating costs are, things like debt service, employee salaries, things like that, then we can come to determine how much money we have left that can be funded, that can fund these one-time type projects, capital projects, one-time expenses, or we can make the determination that we want to spend down fund balance if we are meeting all of those reserve requirements in the funds. And so that's how these projects get funded. So there is a little bit of difference in that, just because the CIP is independent of budget. It provides us with a framework, an idea of what we need to get done and what we would like to get done. But then we don't really know what we can do until we have those budget numbers.
Why did we not on that 62% say, if GeoBond passes, we'll fund that project with, is that how that 62% should have been broke out? Would give this much to police, this much to services, and this much to fire, or no, it wasn't fire, health. So should that be what should be in that 62%?
It's something that we can break out, sure. It's just not something that we've included in the CIP.
That should be presented a little better to the city council that way. If the bond passes, this is what the unfunded portion would go for. The way my understanding would be. Instead of saying unfunded, because now you're asking people, well, we got all these projects. Well, we do. We got $1 billion worth of projects that need to be done, and we don't have the funds for it. Correct.
Sure. Yep, I understand. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if we're putting out this GeoBond, we should tell the people that it's going to pay this in our CIP projects.
Sure. Yep.
I'm sure most people hear that, but maybe our diagram, I don't know how many people look at this stuff online, but I'm just saying, because I did look at it a lot, so.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. All right, anything else for the good of the meeting? Anything we need to know for our next meeting? There is? Yeah.
Oh, he was with Municipal Services.
Anything we need to know for the March meeting? March 25th?
I think we have 3 cases, but
Okay.
nothing out of the ordinary.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and I will adjourn the meeting, and it is, what time?
It's up on the board, 8:09.
8:09. There it is. PM, yes.